Good morning, everybody. This is the One-on-One Show brought to you by the Delatour Law Firm. The One-on-One Show is a legal potpourri show. I like to talk about everything on the show, sports, food, maybe a little bit of politics, maybe a little bit of social issues. Well, a lot of social issues today. Today I got special guest David Ayala from the Latino Justice, a.k.a. the Puerto Rican Legal Defense Fund. Thank you, David, for joining us on the show.
Thank you for having me.
Appreciate you being here, man. But hey, I got a little thing I'm doing right now, and as a UCF Knight, that's why I'm wearing the hat. I'm wearing the UCF hat. David's a UCF Knight too, right?
Yes, I am.
All right,
Wow.
That's what I'm talking about. So, 19.
Woo,
You got anything to say, Andy? Andy's been talking so much trash about the Knights. And I want to just give a shout out to ESPN, who said this weekend that we were the most annoying fans.
Yes.
The most annoying fans.
Something we can agree on.
I'll take it. But what you call annoying, I call swag. Because I'm from Miami originally, and when I grew up a Canes fan, so I just call that swag, man. That's just swag. We just put in our mouth 19. Next week, it'll be 20. UCF plays East Carolina next week, and looking forward to taking down those guys and making it an even 20. And by the way, 2 more teams added to the top 25 out of the American Conference. Okay, the University of South Florida Bulls are now ranked in the top 25, and so is I forgot the other team, but there's 2 teams ranked in the top 25, and they actually finished the Knights finished the season playing 2 teams ranked in the top 25. So for everybody who's been saying that we're not playing anybody who's ranked, now we got 2 teams that are ranked to finish the season. So there you go. Go Knights. Go Knights. I'm going to take this hat off because I'm not going to do the whole show with the hat. But go Knights. Go Knights. I'm going to bring it back. Everybody's asking about the hat. Adrian's asking about the hat. Everybody's asking about the hat. But I'm going to keep wearing the hat every week until I'm not even going to say it.
The hat.
I'm not even going to say it.
Yeah, the hat is awesome.
The hat is awesome.
I think I'm gonna pick me up one today while I'm on campus. I'll be there.
We're on fire, dude.
Yeah.
I wish we were this good when I was going to school there, because I tell you, man, it would have made for some good parties. It definitely would have made for some good parties. But speaking of parties and legal issues, one of the things that was brought up by a local judge at an event says he was hating on the Knights, but in a good way. All right, he said, "I hate it when UCF does good in football," and I'm like, "Your Honor, come on, that's not a nice thing to say." And he's like, "Well, the reason why is because I end up with a lot of people in my courtroom on Monday morning for first appearances." So, just as a reminder, the Delatour Law Firm is a criminal defense law firm. We do criminal defense in addition to immigration law and family law. If you have any needs in that arena, you can give us a phone call at 407-733-0640. But I got David Ayala on the show today, and we're going to talk about a much more serious topic for a minute. David, Amendment 4. I got my, you know what this is, right? I'm going to show everybody. This is a green envelope. Okay. If you've requested an absentee ballot, you know what that is, right?
Yes.
Right? So if you've requested an absentee ballot, it shows up in a green envelope. I got mine in the mail, and it comes with this little response envelope. You have to sign it. And here's a very important thing. Once you stick that ballot in there, you have to sign across the seal of the envelope, okay? You have to sign. It has to be continuous, no stopping. My dad, who has Alzheimer's, he's got a little bit of a shake in his hand, didn't quite finish across and ended up getting a letter from the Supervisor of Elections office. So it's very important that if you have that absentee ballot, that you finish going across. David, is it too late to get an absentee ballot? Do you know?
I'm not sure.
I believe it is too late.
Yeah,
it is too late to get an absentee ballot. I think it's also too late to register to vote. So here we are. We're down to the final moments of this election, which is why we're going to discuss some of the amendments, particularly Amendment 4 today. So, David, can you tell us about Amendment 4?
So Amendment 4, the language on Amendment 4 states that if once a person has completed their time, their sentence, probation, paid off all of their fines, they will once again be eligible to vote. This amendment does exclude people who have been convicted of murder or sexual offenses.
Okay. So to eliminate some of the misconceptions about Amendment 4, when they say a convicted felon can vote, nobody who's doing time upstate or anywhere in the state of Florida currently will be eligible to vote, correct?
No, they will not be eligible
Right.
to vote. And just so we're clear, because
Yes.
I've seen the misconception that, it makes it look as if we'll be giving voter cards coming straight out of prison.
Right.
That's not the case
Right.
either. A person will have to complete their sentence, meaning probation, and pay off all of their fines.
Correct.
Most people can complete their sentence, their prison term, but they still will not complete their probation or pay off their fines to maybe 4, 5, 6 years after they've been released from prison.
So
And that's when you will be eligible to vote.
essentially, this is I would like to call it like the second chance amendment. I believe in second chances. I think that anyone who doesn't believe in second chances must have lived a perfect life. As the saying goes about, you shouldn't throw stones in glass houses. Not everyone's perfect, and some people have gone through different things in life, and there has to be a belief that people can change. And your story is amazing. I've seen there's a video in social media that talks about your story and where you grew up. You're from Brooklyn, New York originally.
Yes.
Are you a Yankees or Mets guy?
Yankees.
Well, it's Brooklyn, so there's not many Mets fans outside of Queens.
Yes.
Giants or Jets?
The Giants.
Okay, so all the right answers. I personally grew up a Mets fan because I grew up spending my summers in Jackson Heights, Flushing. Somebody was actually making fun of me because I just posted a video of an actor by the name of John Leguizamo, and John's doing this whole bit where he's running around in his underwear talking about rock the vote. I guess he's trying to grab people's attention, but he's like, rock the vote, get out there and vote. And somebody was like giving me a hard time about it, and I said, well, listen, I'm kind of partial to John. John's Colombian American like I am. John grew up in Jackson Heights. I used to spend my summers in Jackson Heights, and John's putting out a positive message, which is to get out there and vote. So November 7th is the big day, right?
November 6th.
No, November 6th?
November
Okay,
6th.
So I just want to make sure I got that right. I don't
Yeah,
want to put
November
out any
6th.
misinformation.
November 6th.
I'm actually.
We got 19 days.
Just triple check the calendar.
Yes.
Make sure we got
It's
this
on
right. It's
Tuesday.
the first Tuesday in November. He's correct. David, thank you for getting me on point with the election date. November 6th is the election date. If you're just joining us now, please comment in the comment section. If you got any questions, let us know what you're thinking. Today we got David Ayala, who is from the Southeast organizer for Latino Justice, the Puerto Rican Legal Defense Fund, a great organization that does great work to defend the civil rights of not only the Latino community, but all people of color, really, I think, in my opinion. I had the great pleasure of working with Latino Justice years ago, about a decade ago, more than a decade ago, actually. Yes. When I first started out my career, while I was going to law school, I was working for an organization known as NCLR, which is National Council La Raza, now known today as Unidos US. And a shout out to my boy Rafael Collazo out there in Philly. I don't like the Eagles and I don't like the Sixers, but I like my boy Rafael, and I'll give a shout out to them. Great work, a lot of election protection. Yes. We did a lot of election protection when we worked together as a coalition. They would bring a lot of attorneys down either from the Northeast or recruit attorneys here locally to be ready and on deck. Is that something that Latino Justice is doing this election cycle?
Yes, we are doing election protection.
Okay.
I have to put the ask out there.
Right.
If you are an attorney,
you got me. I volunteer. And any attorney friend that's out there, Latino Justice is spearing up an effort for election protection. So yes. you got me. We could take down my card, my phone number, all that other stuff. And
Okay.
I'm making the commitment right here on the air.
All right.
Well,
Awesome.
actually, before I put my foot in my mouth, November 2nd. Do I have any
November
hearings
6th.
that day? It looks like
All right.
it looks like the calendar's open, so
Okay.
I can. I'm definitely going to be there doing election protection on November 6th.
All right, awesome. So, we've been around with civil rights organization, been around since 1972.
Right.
And we work to, create a more just society.
Right.
We work to empower and create leaders in our Latino community through advocacy and education. And we focus on immigration, economic justice, voter protection, education, and then my baby, criminal justice reform.
That's amazing, and again, I commend you for the work that you've been doing. David, are you Latino?
Yes, I am Latino.
And
Sí.
and sus padres son de dónde?
Mi mamá y mi papá de Humacao,
Oh, Macao, Puerto Rico.
Puerto Rico.
Puerto
Sí.
Rico.
Pues,
Okay.
yo nací en Nueva York.
Pero naciste en Nueva York.
Yeah, New York.
David vamos a hacer el show en Spanglish.
Yeah.
Me dijo que no vamos a hacer mucho en español porque David is a New Yorican.
Sí.
I like to call it Northern Rican. And you know why I say
Northern
Northern Rican? Because as much as New Yorkers are like, our accent is nothing like the Boston accent, every now and then I do confuse it a little bit.
Uh-huh.
And there is nothing more offensive to somebody from New York
Yes.
to confuse them with somebody from Boston, or
exactly.
vice versa.
Or vice versa. Yeah.
Due to all the sports rivalries. They get eliminated by the Red Sox. So maybe next year, Yankee fans. Maybe next
we
year
can get off that subject.
we can get. You don't want to talk about it. That's the not sure part is that listen, man. I don't want to talk about it. Don't get mad at me, Peter. I got my coffee from 7-Eleven this morning. But if you do want a legit Cuban coffee, come visit Cuban American Cafe, located at 135 West Central Boulevard, right here in the heart of downtown Orlando, in our building, the Fairwinds Tower. And again, we're the Delatory Law Firm, and we sponsor this show, the one-on-one show. I'm Juan. And I'm one-on-one today with David.
Yeah.
And David is from Pro Def Latino Justice. You want to throw out a phone number or anything where they can reach you?
Yes, you can reach me at 321-800-3916. Or you can email me at DAYALA@latinojustice.org.
If you want to volunteer, if you want to donate, if you're an attorney and you're listening to the show and you maybe want to do some voter protection, feel free to contact David or call my office, or if you see me, come have lunch. We can talk about it. And let's talk about that for a brief moment.
Yes.
Have you paid attention to the issues going on with disenfranchisement right now, particularly in, like, say, states like Georgia? Have you seen any of this news?
With regards to what we're doing here with Amendment 4, Florida is only one of 4 states that actually has such harsh policies and laws.
Okay.
In Virginia, even though they still have the similar policies, their current governor is restoring the rights to.
I like how you stay focused, David. You're like, wait a minute, that's great, but I'm going to bring it back to my baby. I'm bringing it back to Amendment 4. Let's stick with that. Amendment 4, you just mentioned that Florida has amongst the harshest laws in the U.S. And Florida, we used to joke about this in law school, was often deviated from the norms. So I think that for the constituents and the people that are out there that are voting and ultimately going to make the decision on Amendment 4 and other things on the ballot, it's important to note that we are not in the norm when it comes to this issue. Florida is far off the norm. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, it is far off. I mean, like I said, one of 4 states. Basically, you got every other state restoring a person's rights to vote once they've completed their time.
Now,
you got states like Vermont and New Hampshire where people can even vote still in prison, just like it's similar like in Puerto Rico.
Right. Of course, there has been a process in Florida to restore your civil rights. It's not, by no means is it automatic.
No, not
you
at
have to
all.
go through clemency, application for clemency.
Yes,
You have to
I mean,
apply
it's-
through the governor's mansion. And from what I actually did some research on this, and the numbers during Rick Scott's administration dropped off dramatically. I think that you're not even in the thousands on the number of applications that got approved by the Scott administration during the entire Scott administration. So
Yes.
that's not an easy process to get your rights restored, by no means of the imagination, right?
No, it is not an easy process. I mean, a
Would you call it
person-
near impossible?
Yes, absolutely. There are people that will. I mean, it's hard to say this, but there are people that
Right.
will die and never be eligible to vote under these current policies because of how strict they are. You have to wait 5 to 7 years after you've completed your time to even apply, to even be able to fill out the application to go in front of the clemency board, and then you get put on a backlog of 10,000 plus people waiting to go in front of the clemency board. That
Right.
can take
You have to go through the board.
Yes, and then that can take you 10, 15, 20 years before you go in front of the clemency board. And the clemency board, when you go in front of the clemency board, there's no checks and balances to it. It's arbitrary.
Right.
The governor has the last say, so it really all depends on how he wakes up that morning. Has he had his cup of coffee that morning?
They've said that about a lot of judges as to whether when judges make a decision, it's particularly when it comes down to sentencing, we would hope that they're in a good mood that day.
Exactly. And Juan, you mentioned that you believe in second chances.
I do. I
and-
mean, I have a family member,
Yeah.
and here's the thing about the misconception I believe that exists about quote unquote convicted felons. I have a family member, and I can tell you that having grown up around him all my life, I think he's bona fide crazy. Like there hasn't been like an evaluation. None of that was brought forth. Like, and you know what I really admire? Like one of my better friends, maybe my best friend. He's a godfather to my son, Brian Curler. He's also a defense attorney. He does a lot of serious cases. Murder cases, attempted murder cases, and a lot of cases where there's it's a life sentence or 25 years plus, right? And in a lot of those cases, he focuses a lot on these issues as to mitigate the circumstances of the sentencing. So mental health, not talked about enough. I mean, like right now, offline, we were just talking about a case where, I'm working on a DUI case, and if we took it to trial and lost, it was like an automatic 4.5 years in prison, automatic based on the score sheet. And the judge is telling me, talking about criminal justice reform, which maybe cases do need to be taken on a case by case basis, and not deviate, and to be able to deviate from quote unquote guidelines. Because in this case, the judge is telling my client, is like, listen, if you got to deal with the state, you might want to entertain that. You might want to take that, because after 1.5 years of litigating this thing, they finally came back and they said they'll do 5 years probation, which is, that part is fantastic for my client. She's got 2 children. She needs to be at home, okay, not incarcerated. But then it's an automatic that they want to adjudicate her guilty. First time offense. And this is by statute. And my thing is, you want my client to pay restitution in X amount. I'm not going to get into that detail right now, but she needs to get a job. It's not easy to find good work with a record, and particularly being a convicted felon. So can you add anything to that experience? Or
what I would say is that that's the problem we have today.
Right.
We don't have the proper programs in place
to rehabilitate
the proper policies. I mean, we're putting a person that has mental health issues in prison. That does nothing to reduce the recidivism rate or to increase public safety. So we need to put the proper programs and policies in place that will reduce the recidivism rate and increase public safety. That's why I'm such an advocate for Amendment 4. Studies have shown that when a person has had their rights restored, they're less likely to commit a crime, therefore reducing the recidivism rate and increasing public safety.
Well, they feel more like a citizen.
Exactly.
They feel more like a
They'll
citizen.
feel more like a citizen.
So-
feel like they're a part of the community. Feel like they have a voice, and they hold themselves accountable.
The language of Amendment 4, which I have right here, this is my ballot. Okay, the language of Amendment 4 states that this amendment restores the voting rights of Floridians with felony convictions after they complete all terms of their sentence, including parole or probation. The amendment would not apply to those convicted of murder or sexual offenses, so the more serious crimes would be taken off from consideration, who could continue to be permanently barred from voting unless the governor and cabinet vote to restore their so people who have committed murder and sexual offenses would still need to go through the clemency process.
Through the clemency process that's currently
Right.
Available.
The precise effect of this amendment on state and local government costs cannot be determined, but the operation of current voter registration laws combined with an increase that's the blah 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 section of the amendment. Basically, the Florida Constitution mandates that there has to be an economic impact description on any amendment that makes its way to the ballot. There has to be a description of what the economic impact is going to be on the state, but this doesn't bear any economic impact. And where should it? We're talking about voting. We're not talking about taxes. We're not talking about homestead exemption, all of which is covered in this ballot. There's a lot of other issues that do have plenty of economic impact, but this is a social impact. And I like what you said about making these individuals come back to the forefront of society by feeling like they're in fact citizens with the rights to vote and or even potentially the right to protect themselves, right? Because that's part of the civil rights that you lose in the state of Florida. You lose your right to bear arms if you're a convicted felon.
Yes.
The mental health issue, the case I was talking about, there's mental health issues at play, depression, documented depression for many years, a death in the family that spawns self-medicating, if you will. This person lost a child and did not take that well. I mean, I don't think that there's anybody who takes losing a child well. But this person really had a hard time dealing with that for an extensive period of time. And I mean, I brought that forth in the case because I wanted to make sure the state attorney from a human perspective understood and I should clarify, the assistant state attorney. That's the person that I was dealing with.
Mm-hmm.
The assistant state attorney, in this case, I wanted to make sure that they understood the human element of this.
Yes.
And she said something to me about this particular type of crime, is that they're not necessarily bad people, just bad people who did this one. They made a mistake. But I mean, that's a lot of crimes. I mean, crimes of passion, for example, crimes of passion. People involved in domestic violence issues that escalate into a burglary, for example. I mean, because if you go back home and you're on a restraining order, you get into an issue with your spouse and you're on a restraining order, technically you can be charged with burglary, which is a life felony.
Yeah.
Burglary is a life felony. So what goes from being, your simple run-of-the-mill domestic violence situation now puts a life sentence on the table. So that doesn't mean that those individuals are bad, but they definitely need counseling. They definitely need, other services besides being incarcerated.
And the thing is, Juan, currently there 170,000 people are convicted of felonies every year in the state of Florida. Out there 170,000, only 25% of them are going to prison. And now that 25%, 95 of them are coming back to our community.
Okay.
So you have 75% of the 170,000 people that don't even see prison, but they're still given a life sentence by not being eligible to vote.
I think that's a very important that you point that out. And it's important to point out that giving these individuals the tools to, if they're coming back to the community,
You
to
give 'em
succeed.
to succeed. Exactly.
Yeah, you gotta give them the tools to succeed.
Exactly.
David, again, do we have any comments or questions or anything that popped up? Nothing. Oh, it was a quiet day.
I mean, I
guess.
I believe that people understand that this is something that affects everyone. I mean, we're talking about 1.5 million Florida citizens who are disenfranchised. That's 10% of our voting population.
Right.
It's gotten to the point where people understand that this affects everyone from all walks of life, Latino, white, black, all parties, whether you're a Republican or a Democrat, it affects you.
That was a question that I was about to ask. Does it affect any segment of the community disproportionately?
Well, this is the truth of the matter. I mean, you can't tiptoe around it. We know that our Latino community and our black community have been disproportionately
Incarcerated.
Incarcerated.
I'll be blunt about it. I'll say it. They've been disproportionately incarcerated.
Yeah. But the truth is that it's gotten to the point where this is affecting everyone now.
Okay.
You know, I've heard people say, people try to use the scare tactics. Oh, this is a political move. No, it's not. I mean, the judge didn't ask me that was I a Democrat or a Republican when he sentenced me.
Yes.
You know, and in addition to that, the two topics that you stay away from in prison are religion and politics.
Well, it seems like you stay away from that in general nowadays, everywhere.
Exactly, because there's people from all that believe in all different faiths, and people from both parties. Whether you're in the workplace, whether you're out on the streets, or whether you're in prison.
Is there something about your story that you would like to add to today's show? I know that there's a video again that really, really, really captures David's story. In about 2 minutes, a lot shorter than what we've gone here. So if you want to hear about David's story, look up David Ayala, look up Latino Justice, and there's this great video. It talks about your experience. You talked about the school to prison pipeline, the school to prison pipeline. What's the school to prison pipeline?
So the school to prison pipeline is a system that it basically takes young children from school into prison. And the reason I consider myself a product of the school to prison pipeline is because at a young age I was frustrated because I was witnessing my Puerto Rican mother being beat by her boyfriend, and I took out that frustration in school. Instead of them calling my mother up to find out where the frustration was coming from.
The psychological circumstances.
Yeah, exactly.
The mitigating circumstances.
Yes, they called her up and they took advantage of a Puerto Rican mother who could not read, write, or speak English and coerced her into signing me over to the state.
And that's how you ended up in juvenile detention?
That's how I ended up in the system.
So your PD, your public defender, I don't know what the word for it is in New York, but the DA in New York, the assistant DA, nobody cared to look into your situation?
No one cared to look into my situation. So I was signed over to the state, and I went straight to a group home. And I'll tell you this, I learned more about the streets of New York in the group home than I knew about them when I was out.
Wow. And this is what 90s, 80s?
This was late 80s.
And for the audience, anybody out there that's listening to this great story about David and his past, the late 80s, early 90s New York was a very dangerous place. Yes. It was the height of the quote-unquote crack epidemic.
Yes, it was.
Drugs were pouring in from South America. Gangs were on the street. And, as crazy as a certain mayor has gone nowadays on TV, he did a great job. Mayor Giuliani did a great job in attempting to clean up the streets of New York. I think that when he came into office, that you really began to see a change from the mid '90s to the early 2000s. Things in New York got better, but that wasn't an easy place to be.
No, it wasn't at all. And I want to let everyone know the video you mentioned. Everyone, you can go to the Love Vote, lovevote.org.
Okay.
Or you can find them on Facebook as well, the Love Vote, and my video is on there to give you a little more details about my story. But
you can also, after we're done here, you can go ahead and take those links and post it in the comment section for anybody who might be watching this later.
Right.
But that's an awesome video.
Well,
what else did you want to add?
So what I was gonna say, I thank God most importantly because I got into a cycle, and once I got into the criminal justice system, it became a cycle in and out. And I experienced from the age of 12 to 33 juvenile detention centers, homelessness, Rikers Island, state prison term, federal time, and it was by the grace of God that I was able to transform my life. But I want to definitely point out that while you're watching my story, please understand that there are 1.5 million people here in the state of Florida that are disenfranchised, that have stories similar to mine. And
you
they
mentioned that in
have
the video.
transformed.
You're not exceptional.
I am not the
You're
exception.
not exception. You're not the exception.
Exactly.
I want to thank you. We've actually ran way longer than what we usually do, but I thought that the topic was very important and merited the attention.
Just and want to add, with Amendment 4, please vote yes. When a debt is paid, it's paid. We believe in second chances, and this is something that affects everyone.
I agree. This is the one-on-one show. We've been joined by David Ayala from the Southeast Organizer for Puerto Rican Legal Defense Fund, also known as the Latino Justice Organization. That's a 501c3 or C4?
No, C3.
And they're doing a great job informing the community about Amendment 4. Second chances. We here at Delatory Law, as a criminal defense firm, definitely believe in second chances. And people make mistakes, and once your debt is paid, your debt is paid to society, and you should be able to come back and be able to vote. So we here support at Delatory Law Firm, support Amendment 4. David, you support Amendment 4.
Of course.
Pearl Def is doing good work to educate on the issue. Vote yes on Amendment 4. This has been the one-on-one show. Thank you again for joining us. Again, our phone number is 407-733-0640. You can find this show and past shows on YouTube on our channel. I'll look up Attorney Juan Delatory. You can visit us on our website, delatorylaw.com. Soon, all our shows will be available on our website. Thank you, everybody, for being with us this week. Don't forget, the election is November 6th. Vote Tuesday, November 6th. If you have your absentee ballot, drop it in the mail as soon as possible. One last thing about the absentee ballot is that if you happen to hold on to this until election day, my recommendation would be fill it out and walk it into your precinct, because anything that arrives or is not postmarked prior to election day may not be counted. So the safest bet is to walk it into your precinct. Sometimes they will ask you to surrender this ballot and they will give you a new ballot. One last piece of information, it's very, very important for the voters. If for any reason you're told that you cannot vote at a precinct or during the early voting process, you must immediately request them to have you fill out a provisional ballot. A provisional ballot. You have the right to vote a provisional ballot. Provisional ballots are, just so that you understand, are not immediately counted, but they are definitely counted in the event that an election is close enough to be determined by a small percentage, and usually that's when a recount is involved. I want to remind everybody that the Bush v. Gore election in 2000, if you were too young to be around, was literally decided by the difference of 537 votes. 537 votes, ladies and gentlemen, decided the presidential election and the trajectory of the country for the period, the next 8 years. And that's our history. That's how we got here. So again, this has been the Delatory Law show, the one-on-one show brought to you by Delatory Law. And thank you, everybody, for being with us this week. Anybody who wants any information, please call us or call David. We will post the numbers in the comment section, and we'll see you next week when UCF wins 20 in a row.
Yes.
All right.
Awesome.